Welcome to Daily Tanya. Today is Monday, the 13th day of Menachem Av. And today we begin letter 5 in Igeret HaKodesh, the holy letters of the Alter Rebbe. Let's begin with tzedakah. Tzedakah shemekarebes es hageula. Tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. So, indeed, once again, another letter that talks about tzedakah. And again, in the Alter Rebbe, in his ways, is explaining why to give tzedakah, because by understanding the depth of what tzedakah is, the Kabbalistic meaning behind it. So this letter is a long one and a deep one, deep concepts in Chassidus. And as we try to explain as much as possible, and I'm sure we'll gain much knowledge from this. So here the Alter Rebbe begins the letter about King David making a name for God, as the Zohar says. And he's asking the question, what does it mean to make a name? To make God's name. And he's going to explain, he's beginning to explain, when we're talking about God's name, we're talking about the name of the Yud, K, Vav, K, the four-letter name, the Yud, the Hey, and the Vav, and the Hey. And they represent, the Yud and the Hey, the Vav, and Hey represent the source of everything of this world. The Yud is Chachma, the Hey is Bina, the Vav is the emotive attributes, and the last Hey is Malchus. Again, I know it's Kabbalistic words, but he's going to begin by explaining a statement what it says that these two letters, the first two letters, the Yud, the Hey, it says the world to come was created by the letter Yud, and this world was created by the letter Hey. So let's begin. Alter Rebbe begins with a verse from the prophet Samuel. It says, Vayas David Shem, and David made a name. Now, what does it mean? David made a name. So again, the simple understanding, the way the regular commentators explained what King David was fighting a war, and he made a name for himself, or a name for the Jewish people, a name for himself as a warrior, or as a victorious warrior, or another name. Another explanation is that he actually made a name as being a king full with kindness, that even his enemies, he made sure that they would be buried. That's a simple understanding. But the Alter Rebbe now brings a quote from the Zohar, the Kabbalistic explanation, the Zohar says, Vayas David Shem, that King David made God's name. And that's something we need to understand what it means. It says the Alter Rebbe, Pirish beZohar HaKodesh, the Holy Zohar relates the above, Mishum shenema vayehi David oise mishpat u'tzedakah l'chol ha'meichu. It says the Zohar relates the above phrase to the verse, and David executed justice and tzedakah with all his people. So the name that they thereby made is thus the divine name. He made God's name. And it's the word of the Zohar. The Zohar says as follows: Bocho Rab Shimon ve'omar, man ovid shmo kadisha b'chol yema, man deyoyev tzedakah lemiskene. Rabbi Shimon wept and said, who makes the holy name every day? He who gives charity unto the poor. So this is the statement the Alter Rebbe brought from the Zohar. And we need to understand, number one, what does it mean making God's name? Sounds very strange. Number two, how is it connected with giving charity? That when you give charity, you made God's name. So the Alter Rebbe puts this on aside. He's going to go into a very long explanation about this world, the next world, the attributes, where it's coming from, and we'll get to it at the end. This may be understood in the light of the comment of our sages of blessed memory and the verse, for the divine name that is composed of the letters Yud and Hey, God is the strength of the worlds. So our sages tell us, Behei nivra ha'olam hazeh, beyud nivra ha'olam haba, that this world was created by the letter Hey, the letter Hey of the divine name, the Yud K, and the world to come was created by the letter Yud of the divine name Yud K. So in what respect is this world connected with the letter Hey and the world to come with the letter Yud? So the Alter Rebbe answers this question by first explaining the concept of the world to come and Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. So the Alter Rebbe is going to give us an explanation. What does it mean, the Garden of Eden? Talking about going to heaven, going to the Garden of Eden, Gan Eden, what is it? Is Garden of Eden a place that we have to travel? We go there. What happens there in Gan Eden? And the answer is, Gan Eden is really a state of awareness. There's a state of awareness that is revealed in Gan Eden, a higher awareness. And the higher awareness, meaning the godly awareness, can be right here. I would say, just tell us that there are certain tzaddikim that it says, they see their future world in their lifetime. It is an awareness that is, you cannot experience it here under normal circumstances, because our our mind frame is connected with things that we see, things that we appreciate. Just like in when talking about in this world, you have different people who live in different worlds. You have some people who enjoy a nice meal, a nice steak. That's their world. That's the idea of enjoyment. You have some people who a steak doesn't talk to them. If you give them some nice music, this is nice classical music. They enjoy, they can sit and listen for hours. Other people will enjoy a deep conversation, an intellectual lesson. Different people live in different worlds. In Gan Eden, the neshama, the souls, are enjoying the pleasure of godliness, and the godliness that they enjoy is a direct result of what they accomplished in this world. Says the Alter Rebbe, Pirush, שהתיינוג שמסנגים נשומת הצדיקים, ונהנים מזיו השכינה המאיר בגן עדן עליון ותחתון. This means that the delight which the souls of the righteous experience, as they enjoy the splendor of the Shekhinah, of the divine presence, which radiates in the upper and lower Garden of Eden. This consists of their pleasure in their apprehension and conception. For they conceive and know and understand, which corresponds to the three intellectual attributes. The awareness is seichel, the chachma. Knowing means connecting, processing, and understanding is the processing is the bina. I'm sorry, the knowing is the third one, the das, faculty of das, which is knowing, which means connecting, and the masigim is the processing, which is the bina. So when they do, Eizu asaga ba'ir b'chayes ha'sheifeya shom me'ir soif baruchu b'pchinas gilui l'nishmasam ruach binasam. So some degree of apprehension of the light and vitality which infuses there in a revealed manner from the blessed Ein Sof unto their soul and their spirit of understanding. So that each and every one can understand and attain some perception according to his level and deeds. What does it mean according to the level and deeds? The level is some neshama, some people are created, they're predisposed to have a deeper understanding in godliness. Like there it says in the Gemara, we mentioned the first chapter in Tanya, that it says, Barasa tzadikim barasa Hashem. Hashem created such people that are righteous and some people that are wicked. Not that God created people to act righteous, people that are predisposed, they're conditioned to reach the level of godliness. Just like you have, for example, if you have some people have a special talent in music, they're created that way, and some people are created with special talents in mathematics. Different people with different talents, and so it doesn't mean that when you're born with that talent that you're born a musician or a mathematician, but you have this ability. So this is says Lafi Madrigose, people with the neshama that have a certain level to understand. And then there is also Lafi Mais of the deeds, because whatever we do here in this world, we create our Gan Eden. We create our heaven. Because our heaven is each one their actions, their Torah studies, according to their level. And that is why in the Zohar, the world to come is referred to as Bina, understanding. For that world is permeated by the light of the Sephira of Bina, which enables souls to apprehend and understand godliness. Now this flow issues from the plane of the supernal Chachma, which is the source of the conception and apprehension known as Bina, meaning the Bina is the expanding on what? On the dot, on the Chachma. A very essential point of the wisdom is expanded upon in the level of Bina. Because Chachma is the primordial stage of the intellect. Before apprehension and understanding become manifest. Rather, Chachma at this stage is still in a state of obscurity and concealment. So the Alter Rebbe is speaking here of the particular level of Chachma that transcends intellect and comprehension. It differs from external level of Chachma, which is the germ of intellect and is already illuminated by it. Though it too is yet the unparticularized seminal point of a concept, which is still to be analyzed and comprehended by the faculty of Bina. Preceding this, the primordial level of Chachma discussed there utterly transcends revealed intellect. It is still obscure. In other words, when we understand, when we process something, it also works very fast. Sometimes we cannot differentiate between the point, the awareness that we have, and the comprehension, the understanding, the processing of it works together. But you have the point of Chachma, which is before, which is something that is completely obscure. Except for some minuscule measure that here and there flows forth and issues from it to the faculty of Bina, Lahavinu, Lasik, Seichel, Anela, making it possible for the soul to understand and apprehend a concept which is intrinsically concealed. And this it calls V'lachein nikra b'shem nekuda beichol b'zeh HaKodesh. In the Holy Zohar, therefore, Chachma is referred to as the dot in the palace. The dot represents the dot of awareness, the spark of an idea. In the palace represents the white palace where this dot is being developed. So you always have to have that dot, that awareness, that essential truth that you know. It's always there, and there it's developing. So Chachma is a dot or point of intellect that illumines the palace of Bina. Nevertheless, even when already housed in Bina, it still remains a seminal point of intellect that transcends the details that constitute the comprehension of Bina. So this, says the Alter Rebbe, this is indicated in the letter Yud. This is the shape of the Yud of the four-letter name of God. The letter Yud is shaped like a point, alluding to the Sephira of Chachma, which is a mere point. V'nikro Eden, and that level of Chachma and the Yud, this is called Eden. You say Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, Garden of Eden. This is Eden itself. Chachma is also referred to as Eden, of which it is said, no eye has beheld it. Meaning it is a kind of illumination that transcends and defies comprehension. There is the Eden. It says, the Torah says, "V'nohar yotze me'Eden la'ashkes sagan." There is the river that comes out from Eden to water the Gan, the garden. So these are the different levels. The Eden is the part which is completely concealed. It transcends everything. And eye does not behold it. You cannot comprehend it. But this point, this seminal point of Chachma, goes throughout creation. And here the Alter Rebbe goes on to explain that this level of Chachma, the regional Chachma, the primordial wisdom, this is called the Abba Yosad Barter, the father that founded the daughter. That is girl. What does that mean? The father that founded the daughter. Father is referred to as the Chachma, the seminal point that comes from the father. The daughter represents the Malchus. The Malchus is the kingdom, the thing that completely brings out and reveals, brings it out to revelation, and that is the element of speech. Speech is what brings out the seminal point of wisdom. And here the Alter Rebbe is going to explain something very fascinating. He says we can see it in the speech, which is speech in as far as the human makeup. The speech is the most external part of the person. Everything else until speech is connected with the person himself, whether it's the intellect, the emotions, thoughts. Speech is something that comes out to the outside. And that, in this speech, says the Alter Rebbe, there's something very interesting. What creates the letters, the words? How do you make out words when you speak? Is this a mechanical thing? Like you train to play music, so you train to speak? It doesn't work like that. It's not a mechanical thing. Like by an animal, for example, it's more of a mechanical thing that the animal makes the sounds. But when you speak, it is not a mechanical thing. It's not a natural thing that naturally you speak. it's not something that you're practicing how to speak. It's not something that you use your intellect to train yourself how to speak. That's not how it works. So how does it work? How does speech work? It works because there is something which is deep inside your intellect, above and beyond, that has a desire to bring out a word, and that word is being said through using the speech. When you decide to say the letter M or the letter B, although both of them use the lips, but it's something that comes from deep inside you, which is the chachma, the wisdom that goes directly into the bottom line, which is the speech. And it makes the person then automatically speaks. And that's the point of that essential point of chachma that permeates throughout and goes all the way to the bottom of the human being. So that's what the Alter Rebbe explains. Chachma is the father or source of the letters of speech, which are called a daughter, the level of Malchus. One might have expected the letters of speech to derive from the emotive faculties, the midas, or from Bina. For surely a person articulates letters of speech when he seeks to express an emotion or to speak an idea that he comprehends. The Alter Rebbe, however, now goes on to explain that the letters of speech, in fact, derive from Chachma. So they bypass the whole process of understanding and emotions. It goes directly from Chachma, which transcends comprehension. And he goes on to explain in details. Pirush, this means, the formation of the letters of speech, which proceed from the 5 organs of articulation, is not an intellectual process. The letters do not emanate from the soul as a result of any intellectual imperative. You don't plan it, you don't think how to do it, how to speak. It is also not inherent in the nature of these organs that they must pronounce the letters. By means of breath and the sound that strikes them. By either a natural faculty or by an intellectual faculty. For example, he says, For example, with the lips, for example, by means of which the letters Beis, Vav, Mem, and Pei, they are uttered. So who decides what letter to utter? It's not a natural thing, it's not an intellectual thing. Neither nature nor the intellect compels the utterance of the 4 varying types of pronunciation of these letters, in accordance with the variations in the movement of the lips, which are moved by the same breath and the same sound that strikes them equally. On the contrary, says the change in the movement of the lips depends on the difference in pronunciation of the letters the soul wishes to utter by means of the lips. When it desires to pronounce the letter bet or vav or mem or pei, and the lips will intrinsically and spontaneously move accordingly. It's not like the desire, the soul wants to make the movements. I want to move my lips in that way, and this is when the words come out. Obviously, that's not the way it works. It is not the other way around, that it is the will and the intention of the soul to make a change in the motions of the lips, as they are moving now in the utterance of these four letters. And as empirically evident, the soul does not at all intend or know how to intend the change in the motions of the lips, which articulate these distinctions between the various letters. And the Alter Rebbe goes on to say that this is even more so evident when we have the vowels. Sometimes they say the letter Beis with a patach, which is ba. And sometimes they say the letter Beis with a kametz, which is bo. So the ba and the bo, kametz and the patach, you change the lips. But it's not that you're planning it. This is evident more. This is even more evident with the pronunciations of the vowels. For when the soul wishes to utter the kametz vowel, the lips spontaneously become compressed. And with the patach vowels, the lips open of their own accord. And it's not at all because the will of the soul is to compress or to open them. There is no need to go any further into the matter, which is simple, comprehensible, and intelligible to every intelligent person. Namely, that the pronunciation of the letters and the vowels transcend the apprehend and comprehended intellect. The apprehended and comprehended intellect. So it's not, so where is it coming from? So he says this comes from the hidden intellect, primordial stage of intellect, which goes directly to the speech and makes it speak like that. But rather derives from the hidden intellect, the primordial stage of the intellect, which is in the articulated soul. This is why an infant cannot speak even though it understands everything. So a baby can understand things, but it doesn't have yet the ability to bring it out in speech because that did not develop yet. So this is the end of today's shir, starting to explain this concept of that the world to come was created with the letter Yud, which represents the Chachma, because there the Yud is revealed, which is the Chachma, the essential point, and he explains that the Yud, that Chachma goes throughout the different levels, and he brings the example of the speech, has the speech also comes from the original primordial level of the wisdom. So thank you for joining. We should continue tomorrow. B'ezrat Hashem.